From our studio here at Zarin TV to your screen, hello and welcome to today's news magazine, Monday, April 14th, 2025. On Zarin Television, the Afghanistan War Commission hearing was held on Friday in the U.S. Congress, where high-ranking American officials and former Afghan government authorities identified lack of coordination as the main reason for America's failure in Afghanistan. General David Barno, former commander of U.S. forces, stated that despite sending 15 senior generals and 12 ambassadors to Afghanistan, the United States could not achieve its objectives due to poor coordination between political, diplomatic, and military efforts. Andrew Natsios, former head of USAID, criticized Washington policymakers for mistakenly believing massive expenditures would produce positive results, noting that American aid focused on construction projects while institution strengthening should have been the priority. UN Habitat has reported that more than 40% of Afghanistan's urban population now lives in Kabul, with 4 out of 5 residents living in unplanned urban settlements highly vulnerable to extreme climate events. These settlements face significant risks from floods, heavy rainfall, and heat waves in a country recognized as one of the 10 most vulnerable to climate change globally. According to UN Habitat projections, by 2060, half of all Afghans will live in urban areas compared to only 25% today. This rapid urbanization without proper infrastructure presents serious challenges for urban management and increases the risk for millions of vulnerable residents in the coming decades. The spokesperson for the Taliban's Ministry of Virtue has announced that the ministry has resolved over 1,000 forced marriage cases in the past year. Saifullah Khaibar claimed that the Taliban are defenders of women's Sharia rights and have prevented violations of women's rights in forced marriages. This claim contradicts extensive reports from human rights organizations documenting unprecedented restrictions against Afghan women. UNICEF warned in October 2024 that with the closure of girls' schools, child marriages have increased, and gender inequality has deepened in Afghanistan. Media have repeatedly reported multiple marriages by Taliban commanders and numerous cases of sexual abuse, revealing widespread violations of women's rights. The Supreme Council of National Resistance for the Salvation of Afghanistan has called on Pakistan and Iran to reconsider their forced deportation policies of Afghan refugees. In a statement issued Saturday, the council emphasized that given Afghanistan's dire economic conditions, unemployment, security issues, and political instability, forced returns are inappropriate. The council warned that until root causes of migration are addressed, the humanitarian crisis will continue, especially as the Taliban lacks capacity to solve these problems. Reports indicate that since September 2023, more than 860,000 Afghan citizens have left Pakistan, with over 500,000 entering through Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, raising serious concerns about their situation upon return. Iran's Army Ground Forces commander announced Sunday that the Afghanistan border closure project will be implemented using advanced global technologies. Amir Qumars Haidari explained that this 4-year project will be completed within 3 years, emphasizing it involves more than just constructing a 4-meter-high wall. The head of Iran's Armed Forces Engineering Department previously stated that 1,000 kilometers of shared border needs closure to prevent terrorists and drug trafficking, with 30 kilometers already installed and another 50 kilometers soon to be completed. This marks Iran's first-ever comprehensive closure of the approximately 900-kilometer border with Afghanistan, focusing operations in Khorasan Razavi province. The European Union has strongly condemned the execution of 4 people by the Taliban group in Farah, Badghis, and Nimroz provinces. In a statement issued Sunday, the EU called on the Taliban to halt death penalties and adopt a policy abolishing this punishment. The EU described execution as a cruel and inhumane punishment that fails to act as a deterrent against crime and represents an unacceptable denial of the fundamental right to life and human dignity. The Taliban carried out the executions on Friday on charges of murder in front of hundreds of spectators, further raising international concerns about human rights violations in Afghanistan. Thomas Nicholson, the European Union's special representative for Afghanistan, announced the end of his mission on Sunday. He shared this news through a post on his X account, formally informing the public about the conclusion of his tenure. In his message, Nicholson expressed gratitude for serving during this critical historical period, thanking Afghans he met, colleagues, partners, and friends for their support and cooperation. He emphasized that the end of his mission does not signify a change in the EU's approach, as the Union remains committed to its obligations toward the Afghan people. Until a new representative is appointed, Dorn Daria will temporarily assume his responsibilities. U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One that he will make a decision about Iran very soon. These remarks came after the conclusion of the first round of negotiations between the American delegation led by Steve Witkoff and the Iranian delegation headed by Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The White House described these talks as positive and constructive, while Araghchi also called them constructive and promising. According to Axios, the second round of negotiations is scheduled for Saturday in Rome. An informed source described the 45-minute conversation between Araghchi and Witkoff as the highest-level diplomatic contact between U.S. and Iranian officials in 8 years. Pete Hegseth, U.S. Secretary of Defense, stated in an interview with Fox News on Sunday that Donald Trump is firmly committed to preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. These remarks came one day after negotiations between the United States and the Islamic Republic in Oman. The defense secretary described the talks with Iran as constructive and added that Trump is serious about reaching an agreement through negotiations. However, he emphasized that if negotiations fail, other options would also be on the table. Hegseth referenced previous U.S. actions against Houthis in Yemen and warned that if required, the United States would utilize its military capabilities against Iran. Majid Takht Ravanchi, political deputy of Iran's foreign minister, announced in the National Security Commission of the Parliament that the next round of negotiations with the U.S. will be held in Europe. These talks, like the previous round, will be mediated by Oman and are likely to take place next Saturday. The first round of negotiations in Muscat has been described as constructive by both countries. Takht Ravanchi stated that no threats were made during these talks, and the American side expressed they are serious about negotiations and not seeking war. Iran's main goal in these negotiations has been declared as lifting sanctions, with talks solely focused on nuclear issues. The Kremlin announced Sunday that discussions with Trump's team regarding the Ukraine war are progressing well, but warned against expecting immediate results due to damaged relations during Biden's presidency. Dmitry Peskov emphasized that both countries are moving forward with great patience in this process. Following the meeting between Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, and Vladimir Putin, Trump stated that negotiations to end the war are going well. Peskov indicated that rebuilding relations requires serious work, as Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine marked the most severe confrontation between Moscow and the West since the Cuban Missile Crisis, with Russian forces still controlling approximately 1/5 of Ukraine. With this report, we conclude today's news service from Zarin Global Television. You can watch Zarin television programs apart from Afghan Procast and Jlwiz through our website and the Zarin Global Television application. Until next time, goodbye.